All right, before we move on, there are two things that I want to point out about the somebody wanted but so then finally chart. If you're wondering why there's parentheses around the somebody, it's because when we fill this chart out and we read through, we don't say the word somebody. We're going to say the name of the character who is the somebody. And the one other thing to realize is that the somebody is capitalized, or when we fill it out, the name of the person will be capitalized. The word so is capitalized, the word then, and the word finally are all capitalized. That's because those are the beginnings of four sentences. Because when you fill out the somebody wanted, but so then finally chart correctly, you'll summarize the whole story in just four sentences. All right. So now we're moving on to our summary of Little Red Riding Hood. So first, it's somebody. We're wondering who the somebody is that the story's about. Now, I'll give you a moment to write down on your own piece of paper who you think the somebody is. Little Red Riding Hood. That's who the story's about. All right, so the somebody is Little Red Riding Hood. Now, what did Little Red Riding Hood want? Little Red Riding Hood wanted to visit her grandmother. And if you don't have exactly what I wrote, that's okay. As long as they're close, it's not might not be the exact same words. All right. So now we're going to read back from the beginning from somebody. Little Red Riding Hood wanted to visit her grandmother, but so what happened? What's the but? But she strayed from the path and the wolf heard where she was going. So Little Red Riding Hood wanted to visit her grandmother, but she strayed from the path and the wolf heard where she was going. So what happened next? All right. Little Red Riding Hood wanted to visit her grandmother, but she strayed from the path, and the wolf heard where she was going. So the wolf went, hid the grandmother, and pretended to be her. All right. Little Red Riding Hood wanted to visit her grandmother, but she strayed from the path, and the wolf heard where she was going. So the wolf went and hid the grandmother and pretended to be her. So what happens next? Red almost gets eaten by the wolf. All right. So, like we did before, we're going to start back in the beginning. Little Red Riding Hood wanted to visit her grandmother, but she strayed from the path, and the wolf heard where she was going. So the wolf went and hid the grandmother and pretended to be her. Then, Red almost gets eaten by the wolf. Finally, so what's the last thing? How does the story end? The woodsman comes and saves the day. So Little Red Riding Hood wanted to visit her grandmother, but she strayed from the path, and the wolf heard where she was going. So the wolf went and hid the grandmother and pretended to be her. Then Red almost gets eaten by the wolf. Finally, the woodsman comes and saves the day. So now we've summarized the whole story of Little Red Riding Hood in just four sentences using our somebody wanted but so then finally chart. And like I said before, if it's not exactly the same as mine, you don't have to worry because sometimes we'll use different words. As long as they're similar, then that's all right.